lighter Q&A, and then we'll open it up to you guys. So without further ado, our first guest is a voice actor who has been in Family Guy, The Cleveland Show, Grand Theft Auto 5, Final Fantasy 15, Prototype 2, and Overwatch. Give it up for Chris Parson.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Our second guest is actually the winner of the Golden Joystick Award for Best Gaming Performance. You know him as Geralt from Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Doug Cockle.
Yay!
And last but not least, we have our next guest, who is a singer and author, but you know her as the voice actress of Widowmaker from Overwatch. Give it up for Chloe Hollings. So first of all, how are you guys enjoying MomoCon so far?
Loving it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Awesome.
Great. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Describe the first time you've ever had to do a voiceover.
Can we start on the opposite end?
For this one. The first time I had to do a voiceover, I was actually 8. So for those of you who don't know this yet, I'm half French and I was born and raised in Paris. My mother's British, my father's French, and my mother was the editor of a magazine for people to learn English, for like 10, 11-year-olds to learn English. And so she was writing this magazine with like little sketches in it and stuff that had to be recorded, and that's what I started working on. I actually do remember my first one. It was very overwhelming because I wasn't the only person here. Obviously, there were many like professional actors who were like in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, and I was just this 8-year-old. I only remember one thing, was how tired I was at the end of one full day. And remembering that one of the sketches that I did at the end of the day, when I listened to the recording, the final recording, once it was finished, I realized that it had been redone by someone else. I was like, hey, that was my thing. And she was like, yeah, but you were so tired. We could kind of hear it through the microphone. So that was my first lesson learned.
My first time was when I was a graduate student at Penn State University. I got involved in a mining museum exhibit somehow. I don't know quite how it happened. I can't remember the name of the museum. It may not even be there anymore. It was so long ago. But I was called in to do a number of voices, some regional accents, and just some general narration. So that was the first voiceover I ever had experience of doing. It was good, really great fun, actually.
If you have a copy of the movie The Fifth Element on Blu-ray or 4K or the special edition version, you can hear my first handiwork on that Blu-ray. There were a few like making of special features, like the visual element and the star element and all this sort of stuff. And that's yours truly reading it, struggling to get through it. But it's miraculously made the disc, and you can still hear it, and feel free to put it on and laugh at me. So there you go.
Great. What have you learned about yourself through voice acting, if anything?
I guess for me as an actress, because here's the thing, when you're a young actor, you think, I thought, I was convinced that what I liked the most was being in front of people. I thought I was very much an extrovert. I thought that I enjoyed more than anything, just showing my work, like being on stage and things like that. What I did learn about myself in the booth was how much I find it liberating to not be seen by anyone at all, actually, and how much more relaxed I can be, and therefore how just the work can be that much more interesting as well because of it.
I think I kind of had a similar experience as Chloe had. When I first started doing voiceovers for games, what was really nice about it is that the only people who are seeing you are the people who are recording you. So you could be in your pajamas or look horrible, have a bad hair day, whatever it happens to be. Make faces, yeah. Whatever it is, you can be as unsightly as possible and nobody can see it. So that's great. But what I've actually learned about myself is more from acting in general rather than from voice acting. I think most actors would agree, I don't know if you two will, but most actors would agree that actually the act of acting, whether it's voice acting or stage or screen, is actually an act of becoming vulnerable. Good actors become vulnerable in some way, shape, or form. And so through that, I think that an actor who pays attention to that vulnerability and pays attention to themselves can actually learn more about themselves as a person, how I tick, what drives me. And the more you know about yourself, the better an actor you can become, and it's a kind of, lovely circle, spiral, going up to self-knowledge.
As for what I've learned about myself, it was probably that I could even do any of this at all. I mean, I worked in talent management before going to the other side, and I'd worked in casting before, and you just see how much failure there is to it. You'll be an assistant working for some managers, and you look at your client list and you go, none of these people are working right now. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where you try to prepare yourself for the reality of the whole thing. But that I could do it at all is really I'm shocked. I'm still shocked.
Now, were you nerds at all growing up?
I think we're all nerds,
I don't think
really,
that's faded
up.
away. No.
I wasn't.
What kind of shows or games or comics did you enjoy growing up?
Oh, I loved Dungeons and Dragons growing up. I just loved it. But I was terrible. I was always the DM with my friends, and I beat them silly. I was really, really mean to them, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah, through Dungeons and Dragons, I learned that I'm a masochist. Is that the right one, or is it a sadist?
Sadist.
Sadist, thank you, yeah.
I'm probably like a lot of other people. I was really into Star Wars, I still kind of like it, but I find myself watching the first 3 movies more than any of the other ones. I don't know, maybe it's just when I was raised. But yeah, there's tons. I like to, this is an odd one, I like to collect the Star Wars droids only. Like, I only like the droids. Okay. Yeah, anyway.
I played a little bit of Crash Bandicoot and even a little bit of Doom as well. That was when I was 7, there was this thing where I liked to play Doom because we had a PC at home, which was a novelty back then. And so I like to play Doom. My father would let me. My mum didn't want me to play it because it was too violent, of course. And that's it. And then Crash Bandicoot. But other than that, I was more nerdy about Spice Girl cards and things like that. Yeah.
Nice. When it comes to voice acting, do you have a preference for animation or games or something else like audiobooks? Is there a preference?
I like reading promos a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't think, do you guys know what promos are? Like Tonight on country music television, that kind of thing. I like reading those a lot because they can be really restrictive. Like, you only have so much time to say something, and you have to impart your enthusiasm to the viewer to get them to tune in, So I do like that, but with Final Fantasy 15 in particular, what I liked was that we were, it was a dub, but we really had to try to match the original vibe of the original. Mm-hmm. So that was fun too. In other words, that you couldn't just do whatever you wanted. It had to fit into a certain time, and it had to convey the right intensity. So sometimes those restrictions can really, make you better.
I like games. I really like games. That's partly because that's pretty much all I do. I have done other things, but there's just something about the games, and often the games that I get asked to do because I like the acting of the characters. I like the storytelling aspect of it. That's what really excites me about doing voiceovers for games.
Yeah, I like voice work in general, whatever I get, just because I like making something out of nothing. So promos, commercial work, I love it all, but I do prefer animation or gaming in the sense that there is a character to build. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love working on Overwatch, is that what is really expected of us is to create these human beings who have all these different layers, who are complex and so interesting, and that's what I really, really like.
Was there a character that you were really excited to voice at any point in your career?
I guess I like to, like any character that has any type of depth, any level of depth, I will adore to explore. And I like to be a character that makes a difference, which, for example, I do consider that Widowmaker is one of them, because she is such a baddie on the outside and you have to learn to love her in a way. And so I find that very interesting. One of the characters that I did recently for an indie mobile game was this Syrian refugee who is trying to escape the war in her country. And the whole purpose of this game is to put the player in a position where he's trying to help this person, and so he gets acquainted with the reality of this crisis and this particular situation. And I do like participating in these kind. I was very enthusiastic about that because it means something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really excited when I was brought back for Geralt of Rivia in Witcher 2, actually. And there's a little story to this. It might sound obvious that I would be brought back for Witcher 2, but I wasn't, almost. The developer decided after Witcher 1 to just start from scratch with everything and do something completely different. So at this point in time, I was teaching full-time, and I got a phone call from a friend who said, I just auditioned for this character, Geralt of Rivia. Isn't that the character you played in Witcher 1? And I said, yeah. He said, well, they're auditioning for it. What's going on? And I said, I don't know. So I called up one of the guys from CD Projekt who I knew, and I said, I hear you're auditioning, and that's absolutely fine. I understand. I'd be happy to come in and audition again if you'd like me to, do something different. And he said, well, let me go talk to the director. And he came back to me a day or two later and said, actually, the director, Kate Saxon, she's listened back to your work on Witcher 1, and she thinks you're the best person for the job. They've been auditioning at this point for like 3 or 4 weeks. So it was a close call. If my friend hadn't called me, I would have never been in Witcher 2 or Witcher 3. So long story short now, I was really excited when Boris called me and said, you're back. Because I felt like I'd just,
Conquered.
Yeah, conquered a rather big hurdle. So yeah, that's mine.
I liked playing Yusuf Tazim in Assassin's Creed Revelations, I think it was. Because it was a motion control thing, but we had to wear these big old motorcycle helmet type deals with things sticking out of it. It was so strange. But Roger Craig Smith is an incredible actor, and he was such a hoot to work with, and but there was just something about it. He was just this boisterous, like Turkish guy, and I just like doing that, especially with the contraption on my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm a masochist, or
it's fun, isn't it? I've done a little bit of facial capture as well, and it's fun. There's just something weirdly fun about putting this helmet on your head with a cage around you and a camera staring you in the face.
Right.
and then trying to.
Do you think it makes the video game? Do you think it helps? It makes it better, or with the motion capture setup, or?
It's.
Maybe they should answer.
Yeah. What do you guys think? You like it better? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, that ends that.
Yes. So the three of you mentioned that, yeah, obviously you watch movies and TV shows outside of work. What, in your opinion, is the most underrated TV show or movie out there?
The most what?
Underrated.
Underrated. Oh.
Underrated. There's what decade? I mean,
I'll leave it open.
God. In the 2000s, I could name 20 movies that are criminally underrated, or that most people haven't seen.
Like?
TV shows, I'm not as well versed.
Well, name a couple movies.
From the 2000s, there's a movie called My Summer of Love, which is really great, with Emily Blunt is in it. I guarantee you a lot of people haven't seen it. And for me to explain it would just kind of ruin it. It's just about this friendship between these two girls, and take it from there.
Cool.
God, there's a lot. Like, if you like David Fincher, the movie Zodiac is a great movie.
Ooh,
about the Zodiac killer. Is great. There's a million. There's so many. It's like we don't have enough time for this.
No, I'm racking my brain here, because if you ask me overrated, maybe there's more scope there.
Oh, boy.
But
Because
underrated,
you're a sadist.
I think there's one from ages ago, and I loved this when I was a kid, and most of you have probably not even seen it. But if you haven't, go back and watch it, because it is a classic. It's called Beastmaster.
Oh,
Do you know
of
it?
course.
Yeah, and I think that was a grossly underrated film. Not because it was a master of cinematic quality, but because it was just cool. I loved it. I've seen it dozens of times, not for years now, but yeah, Beastmaster, underrated, I think.
That and Cherry 2000.
Cherry 2000, I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's like a Mad Max ripoff.
Oh, right.
It's a lot of fun. Melanie Griffith is in it. That's pretty much all you
Well,
need
that's
to know.
worth watching
Yeah.
it for all by itself.
Right. Cherry 2000. Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, I was going to say Cherry 2000.
Yeah, sure.
No, my answer isn't very sophisticated. Especially because it doesn't seem like it's underrated, but it seems like it's becoming like old-fashioned, and that's what I don't get. I'm a very big Friends fan. And I think it is underrated, just in the sense that I don't get why other people can't watch every episode 1,000 times the way I can. It's very underrated.
No, my wife and I have just started watching through all the Friends again as well.
Oh, you are so
It's just
lucky.
so funny.
For me, it's like a ride. Like, you can go on it, and then when you, let's go on it again.
What's a common misconception about the voice acting field?
I think sometimes it's often thought that it's easy from the outside.
Yeah, I'd say that what I realize when I speak to fans about it is that most people tend to think that it has all to do with voice. And I believe it has very little to do with voice and more to do with characterization and script analysis and physicality and so many other things. And the voice is kind of like the tip of the iceberg that just kind of, whooshes out.
Like, if you want to stay employed, I recommend trying to do as many different kinds of voiceover as possible. Because when you start off, you just think, oh, well, there's video games, and then there's maybe promos, but there's a lot of different kinds of voiceover to do. You can do sound-alikes, where you're called in to sound like another actor because they're going to put out a TV version and they don't want all the F words, so the original actor doesn't want to do it, so they call you in to mimic the original actor. There's that. There's all kinds of stuff, and the more kinds of different reads you can do, the more your agents are going to call you to go out there and have a shot at those jobs. Because most of it is the agents going, no, he can't really read commercial, leave him off. No, she can't really sound like anything other than herself, leave her off. There's a lot of that. And if your agents catch wind of you not having versatility, that right there means that you don't get access to the same amount of auditions. So that affects your bottom line.
I think just to explain further what my answer to this question is that the fun part of voice acting or acting in general is the actual acting, but that's a very small part of the job. The majority of the job is out there on the street, sticking your foot indoors, trying to meet people who, can potentially hire you, not in a creepy way or anything like that, but just in a hey, I'm here, you know what I mean? Sending out emails to people saying, hi, I exist, going to networking events and just being available to the industry in a very positive and outreaching kind of way. And that can be very taxing as well, because there's a whole lot of doors slamming in your face. There's a whole lot of no. There's a whole lot of, you're not right for this. So a lot of the work of acting is the getting of the work. And then the hour we spend in the booth is kind of the cherry on top, if that makes sense. So I think it's a misconception that it's easy, in the sense that we go in the booth and we have fun and we play. And that's what we try to do to stay free and open and have fun and everything else. But that hour in the booth comes from a lot of hard work and a bit of luck as well.
And a lot of auditions.
And a lot of auditions, yeah. I mean, I've heard different statistics, but some people say for every 100 auditions you'll get one job.
That sounds maybe even optimistic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't have that kind of competition, because I'm not I don't live in a country where the industry is so big.
Yeah.
But yeah.
LA is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to open it up for audience Q&A. So if you can line up to the standing mic over here, we'll get that started. And while people are lining up, my final question was, in the shows and games that you voiced, who are your favorite characters besides the one you voice?
Oh, and the stuff that we're in that we...
Oh, that somebody else voiced?
Yeah.
The other members in Overwatch besides me, I love all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. It's true. I love the characters of Overwatch.
Yeah, I do too.
Are there any characters that stand out to you?
Well, I'd say bits of several characters.
Okay.
I love that Winston says, "I'm not a monkey, I'm a scientist." That's a big to me. Like, Overwatch is that sentence, and I really love it. But I also love that Anna, her whole character, who she is, this middle-aged hero with an eye missing. I love her. Just so many different.
I think that game in particular is one where if you take away one character, it just doesn't, it's not Overwatch anymore.
Sorry.
Like, Junkrat's fun and everything, but Roadhog is fun with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And without the two of them, it's not the same.
It's an ensemble.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm playing Assassin's Creed Origins at the moment, and I'm really enjoying the actor who plays Bayek? Is that the character's name? Yeah, Bayek. I can't remember his surname. First name is Ariba. And I met him, and he's a really cool guy. But before I met him, I was playing the game, and I was going, this guy's good. I really like what he's doing with this character. Because he's not really like that. He's doing a fantastic accent and putting real life into the character. And then I met him, and he's like this London lad, and it was like, wow, I really appreciate what you're doing, and coming from someone who does it as well, I really appreciated the difference from when I met him to in game. So yeah.
All right.
Ow.
Let's start with our first audience question.
Yes, this is for all three of you. What's the most awkward fan experience that you've ever had to deal with?
Oh,
Thanks.
interesting.
I haven't had one, single one. For me, the awkward experiences I have sometimes are when the fans I meet are so incredibly nervous that they can barely look me in the eye, can hardly speak. They're shutting down on me, and I'm feeling like I have to try to lift them up. You know what I mean? It's because I feel bad for them. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're all of us. You know, we eat, sleep, and poop. You know, we're just people like everybody else. So I absolutely love meeting fans. I really like it when you guys are confident and come up and say hi, and I'm so and so, and I love your work, and we can have a nice chat.
Yeah, my answer is similar. I've hardly ever had a truly awkward encounter with a fan. So I would say that the most awkward that there has been is when a fan comes to me a first time and then comes back, and because I have seen many people in between, I don't remember him or I don't remember his or her name. That makes me feel very uncomfortable, and I hate that. But yeah, that's it.
One time a guy wanted me to sign his arm, and not just me, a few other people there, so he could get it tattooed in. So it wasn't awkward, but I remember saying, "Are you sure you want this?" Yes. We went back and forth like 10 times, but there you go. I don't know about awkward, but bizarre. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, this one's for Doug Cockle, and I swear this is completely uncoincidental that I'm wearing this, but I swear, weren't you the Easy Company chaplain in Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
That's where I know you from.
Yeah.
Man, I've been seeing your face all over. All right, that's all. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Let me do this right, but quick also, because there are more people with questions, of course. First, Chris, good to see you again. I saw you in EXPCon, maybe you remember?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
car guy, yeah. Same for Doug. Hi. I owe you that beer. I'll fix it later, so that's good. Chloé, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je m'appelle français un petit peu, parce
oui.
que je suis de Hollande.
Ah, coucou, bienvenue.
Enchanté.
Enchanté.
My question for you guys is, out of all the characters you voiced, of course it's a business and it's something you do to make a living. So I understand it's sometimes just voicing lines and that's it. But in terms of emotional connection to a character or a moment one of your characters has been through, what was the most memorable that really stuck to you that you said, okay, that changed me as an actor?
Well, okay. This is not going to sound very original. But Widowmaker has truly, because I started doing voice acting as a child, and then, but it was kind of like an accident. As I said, it was because my mom was in this particular field, and basically I wanted to make a little extra money as an 11 or an 8-year-old. And when I decided to become an actor, I just naturally felt that, oh, that would be a good way to make a living. And so for some years, that's what it was. It was being an actor, trying to develop in this industry. With Widowmaker, and I remember the precise moment when I realized this, because the writing is so great, the directing is so great, the storytelling is so interesting and everything. I remember this moment when I was like, oh, every reason why I decided to become an actress is in this game. So yeah, that was like a real mind shift for me.
Transformative experiences.
I'm going to have to move beyond games to answer that question, actually. I had a real journey with the character I played in a play. The play is Burn This by, I'm going to forget the author's name now, Lanford Wilson. And I was cast as Larry in the play, and he's kind of the main character's sidekick. He lives in an apartment with a dancer who's the main character. And Larry is gay, and I'm not. And like all actors, we like a challenge, and but the challenge for me was that I really didn't want to turn this character into a stereotype. I really didn't want to turn him into, someone not fully rounded, three-dimensional, four-dimensional even. And I was aware that I could very easily do that. So I worked very hard trying to find Larry. And I was really, I thought I was doing a pretty good job and stuff, and the director didn't say otherwise, and the other actors were very generous and everything else, doing their own work as well. But it was opening night, and we were in the bar, and my wife was there to see opening night, and the crew all thought I was gay. So when I introduced them to my wife, they were like, "What? You're married?" Because they all just thought I was gay, and I thought that to me, that was the ultimate kind of validation of my work, because and among the crew were lots of gay and lesbian people, so it wasn't a bunch of straight people judging me. It was a real validation, and it kind of at a moment of self-doubt, going, "Ooh, is this going to go over?" It was validated by the people around me who felt that it was a very accurate portrayal of a human being who happens to be gay. I thought that was great.
For me, there's a lot in Final Fantasy 15 that felt like it was kind of changed me a little bit. I know it sounds kind of silly, right? That video game can change you.
Didn't think that.
But we worked on it for so long, over 3 years. Like, we started in October of 2014, and we recorded at least, 3 or 4 studios. And even into, I think, 2018, we recorded some odds and ends for some of the DLC stuff. But when we were doing that, I was supposed to be kind of the paternal figure of the 4 guys, and it was fun to actually imagine the rest of my brothers in the game. And it was one of the few times where I felt like I kind of wasn't. I was like in my own Final Fantasy 15, no video games, in this picture. So I got lost there for a while because we just worked on it for so long, and I felt like I had a good handle on him. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks. And Doug, it was Abubakar Salim.
Sorry?
Assassin's Creed Origins. His name is Abubakar Salim.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
much.
answer.
Yeah.
There you go. Cool.
I'm short.
Hello.
Hi. I was wondering if you could give me some tips on my diva impression because I really look up to all of you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Diva 1, bad guy 0. It's just easy mode.
Oh, nice.
Pretty good.
Very
I
nice.
hear it.
Yeah, there's a bit of Charlotte there.
I'll give it a 10.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any advice. I mean,
I'll tell you what, just take one very small step towards the mic.
Oh,
Teeny tiny.
Yeah,
And do it again.
I'm really short and I'm
No,
really
you're
quiet.
fine. A little tiny bit closer. There you go. Do it again.
Diva 1, bad guy 0. It's just easy mode.
There you go. That's better. That's turned up the gain on you a little bit there.
Yeah.
well done.
Yay.
This one's for Chloe. I noticed that you said that you did theater, I think, before you became a voice actor. I've been doing theater myself for mostly throughout a lot of my school years. When you make the transition from the theater to the booth, how does that feel? Is it weird? How would you describe that?
Actually, I feel like the transition between theater and the booth is less important than between the camera and the booth. Just because in the booth you can move and, as we were saying, make faces, and you can be very physical. And so actually, I don't know. As I said, I always use the same process when there's a character. So I just gather all the information that I have about this person and be sure to consider it as a person and not a bunch of lines that I have to say. And then whatever. Actually, I feel it's kind of similar for me, except that there's a microphone and that I can't do what I've been doing for an hour here. All that. But that's the only thing. It's
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
What kind of networking events are available for aspiring voice actors?
Depends on where you are.
I'm in Georgia.
You're where?
Georgia.
In Georgia.
In Georgia. I don't know Georgia very well, so you'll have to have a look around. But probably the best place to start is online. Just do some searches for like actors clubs or
Podcasts.
Sorry?
Podcasts.
Podcasts, yeah. I'm sure here in Atlanta there are, because there's loads of actors here in Atlanta, and there's probably classes you can join in that professional actors who are just keeping their skills up to date and stuff like that are taking. It's a hard one because kind of what happens is when you start putting yourself out there as an actor, you start to meet other people, and then people start to gravitate. And then there'll be a cafe where people kind of hang out, and there'll be, another bar where a lot of actors hang out, and you'll hear about things that are happening. But now there's a lot of stuff happening online that happens in real life as well, but the information about it is online, and that's where you find out about it primarily. So I just do a search for Atlanta actor networking events. It's not likely to be just voiceover. It'll be broad. Actor kind of events. Try that and see where it gets you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, question for all three of you. Kind of a technical question. Do you find yourselves more often in a studio booth or using more of a personal at-home setup?
You'll do a ton of stuff at home because, not to be mean, but producers don't want to spend their money on recording studio, because it's pricey. It's even still, it's really pricey. So they'll call you and say, hey, can he read these, 3 takes of each line and send it into us? So you don't need a terribly elaborate setup for home, you could throw up packing blankets and and get busy, or record in a closet because the clothes will absorb a lot of the slapback echo and so forth. So but you'll do a lot at home.
But again, it depends on where you are, because in Paris I spend 100% of my time in booths, and I never record anything from home.
Yeah.
So.
I'm very similar. Yeah, I'm almost always taken into
Funny, isn't it?
a recording studio.
But it will get to us. It's just that we're always a little behind on the money saving, money cutting.
That's the other part of voiceover too that is not talked about enough, is that you're going to have to learn at some point how to record your own voice and your own demo reels and your own stuff, because it can be really, really easy to drop $3,000-$4,000 on, an expert trailer reel and all these things. And for that kind of money, you could have a really nice mic, a really nice preamp, and those are a really nice compressor. Those are really, really important things if you're going to set up shop at home and start out.
I've only recently actually set up a home studio, and I've not had to use it once professionally. I've had a lot of fun playing with it.
Right.
But I've only had it for 2 or 3 months, and the purpose of it is twofold. One, for auditions, for remote auditions, and 2, for smaller jobs like what Chris is describing. 3, 4 lines. That it's just not worth asking me to come into London to record and do stuff like that. So it's worth doing on the cheap to start out with and then see where it goes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
This is for all three of you. So, throughout your career, have you guys ever faced any problems, doing voices for any characters? Have you guys
describe problems,
challenges throughout your careers, any social or economical challenges throughout your career?
Not getting paid is a big economical challenge.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
I think it's the typical dangers for any actor, but especially for voice actors, because we do often get asked to do quite a bit of screaming or shouting in the booth. So losing or damaging your voice is kind of an ever-present pitfall. Being asked to do something you don't know if you can do on the spot. I've been asked to do accents that I've never done before all of a sudden in the studio, I'm doing one thing, and they go, "Can you do this one? Can you do an Icelandic accent, please?" And I'm going,
Yeah.
"What?"
I remember for Far Cry 5, I think it was, we had to do a Montana accent. Yeah, so we had to sort of talk sort of like this, like that. We actually had lessons for a couple days or something with a dialect coach, but it's mostly a lot of things that are going to be thrown at you that you couldn't dream them up. I mean, not you, but you, me, none of us could dream them up if we tried. Like, say Snickers, but like you have a mouthful of Snickers. Say Snickers really satisfies, and try to make it intelligible, and it also needs to be in 6.14 seconds, by the way. I'm not joking. I mean, they'll really tell you. I'm not kidding.
I'm working on an indie game at the moment, and this is probably going to be the first professional thing I record at home, actually. It's the intro to this game. I can't talk about it because it's not released or anything yet. But the character is supposed to be this gruff soldier with a cigar sticking out of his mouth. So for the audition, I kept sticking different sized pens in my mouth to try and get the sound. But if you actually stick a pen in your mouth, you can't articulate properly, and they kept falling out and various other things. So I must have spent an hour just trying to get 3 tracks that were roughly decent. And in the end, I did it without anything in my mouth, and I just pretended that I had something in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of kind of trial and error like that.
Things like that are all the time.
That's all. Answers all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Good.
All right, so I know that a lot of actors tend to have a character type they like to play the most, so it's like something they're really drawn to. So is that true for any of you, or?
I like to play characters that are as far away from myself as I can. So I'm naturally kind of warm and I'm an enthusiast. I like life generally, and I'm very, very drawn to murderers, assassins, witches, whatever.
Yeah, I tend to get brought in as like Geralt is the kind of gruff anti-hero. I'd say about 80% of my gaming career has been that kind of character. So I really enjoy it when I get called in to do something completely different, something with a lot of color, with a lot of somebody who's kind of pulling the rug out from under the hero's feet. Anything that's a little bit different, a little more active, maybe.
I think that you really have to try to read everything you can, whether it's travel shows or keeping up with the Kardashians promo or what. I mean, I know you think, oh, no, I don't want to read, but that's what makes you really, really good. And it's what helps, because, you might start off thinking, I only want to work on video games. And then you catch fire and all of a sudden you're the voice of, ABC or something. Trust me, you don't turn down the ABC job. The short answer is just read everything you can. Everything that you can, everything possible, and try to record it too. And then when you record it, you listen back and you go, well, that sounds horrible, and then record it again and again, or maybe not, maybe it'll sound great. But you just go over and over. Yeah,
you're right. It's important to listen to yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Of course.
Hi guys, how y'all doing?
Hi.
Good, thanks.
Has there ever been a scene or a line that you've ever said in one of your games or movies or whatever that's just made you cringe in the booth?
All the time.
Too many.
Too many.
Yeah. What I've learned through the years is to sometimes, not always, but sometimes just accept that the people like what you don't, and you don't know why, and you would like it to do it again sometimes, but you're like, this is not my job, this is not my project, this is not my vision, and I will just let them be happy with whatever they are happy with. Which sometimes it's hard.
It can be really difficult sometimes to just go.
Yeah. And sometimes it's important to say, hey, wait, I will do this just one more time, and then it also works out. It depends.
Mafia 3 had a lot of racist dialogue because I was playing this racist assassin named, I think, Marcano's Trigger Man.
And you made him non-racist.
Yeah. So for that one, it was like there was just a ton of racist stuff to say, and it wasn't quite easy. But you had to realize that the game was set in the 1960s, and you're talking about a bunch of people who kill each other in this game. So it's kind of like you kind of have to get over things that are personal to you and just go, look, I'm being paid to act, and you have to just do it. And you have to do it in a way that's befitting of what the material is. That can be the hardest
And
part.
it all
saying
depends
stuff
on the
like that.
story that you're telling,
Yeah,
like
that's
as a
true.
whole.
Yeah, yeah. I should have known, or is it Mafia 3?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, guys.
Of course.
Good afternoon, panel.
Hello. Afternoon.
Sherman Williams. So my question is, many of you have passions outside of voice acting. And with that being said, how do you, does it actually ever conflict with voice acting? I believe one of you are writing books or things of that nature, yes? And so how often do you see voice acting conflicting with your other passions in life?
I don't think it really conflicts. I think it really helps it.
Okay.
Because when you are a performer and you get your sides or whatever, you see what the quality of writing is. And sometimes it can be wonderful, and a lot of times not so wonderful. So when you look at the material that's out there, you go, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do the other. But I find that it's helped tremendously acting, you know. Yeah.
I've had a bit of a struggle on a what's the word, like on a moral level, because so I wrote a book which is a body positive book, and it's mostly directed to women. I mean, men can read it too, but I'd say yeah, and it's mostly about how society like is expecting you to be this thing and nothing else, and how we might feel pressure into having to conform to like a certain type of, you know, body and looks and stuff. And so when I find myself, at a time when I found myself doing commercials for like L'Oreal or like other brands, and that literally my text was, well, everything that I hate and everything that I am trying to battle, like, oh, you look tired and old, and look, this cream can make you look wonderful and young, and all this, I did feel like my idealism was like hurt. But on the other hand, you also have to deal with it, because the money that I get through these types of ads is also what gives me the freedom to write books like that will be bought by other people and that will actually help other people. So sometimes you've just got to go, all right, you just got to let some of them go. That can be tough.
I think my answer to your question is that any passion you have can conflict with anything. And not at the same time in many ways. I've found that in some ways life conflicts with my passion. Or the other way around, passion conflicts with my life.
Why do I need to eat?
Yeah. Or you know, you get a job and it takes you away from your family for 3 months. You know, that's a conflict that can be challenging. You know, your kids need you, your wife needs you, you need them, but you can't be there because you're getting paid a lot of money to go do a film somewhere, you know, and you can't get home in the weekend, and you know, things like that. So yeah, of course there are conflicts, but life, that's what life's about, really.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just as a note, we do have 10 minutes left, so let's go ahead and make this a lightning round.
All right, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Sorry, my French, I'm just still learning French. I even had something written down in French
perfect.
off my translator.
Perfect 10.
Yeah, but I'll say it after my question. But so, which actually kind of pertains to my question, because I'm actually curious to know, do a lot of people that are, I guess, looking for auditions, are they kind of more interested in people that kind of can speak other languages, and you know, I guess that can actually do better accents a lot better, which I apologize for that very terrible British accent. But yeah, or sorry, was I talking too fast?
No, it's just sometimes it's hard for us to hear because the sound is actually going towards you rather than
Oh,
towards
yeah,
us.
no, I was asking, like, do a lot of people look for people that can understand, or like, I guess can speak, read, or understand other languages? Like, are there bigger opportunities for them versus, like someone that, I guess can just read it? Because, I mean, I can speak Spanish, like, fairly well, but, yeah.
If you're not a native speaker, probably not an avenue to go down, or speak excellently fluently. I mean, you can talk more about that really, but what they want is someone who can speak the language to a native speaker and not sound like they're not a native speaker, if that makes sense.
Yes. Right, merci de prendre le temps de répondre à mon enquête.
Bravo.
Merci.
Avec plaisir.
Salut.
Salut, ça va?
Comme c'est comme ça. I speak French too. I studied abroad. I'm more or less bilingual now, but my accent is not the best. Anyway, I was wondering, what do you do when you feel self-conscious? Because I'm an aspiring voice actor. I find myself struggling with that a lot because, well, long story short, growing up wasn't inspired to talk a lot. Anyway, so I was wondering, what do you do when you feel like self-conscious?
Self-conscious
about your voice, about your performances.
Well, you're going to be too worried about trying to make a living to be worried about, is my voice good? You just got to get out there and do it.
That's very
Yeah.
good advice.
Yeah.
One thing that helps me. Sorry, were you
No, go
done?
ahead, no,
Sorry.
please,
One thing that helps me is, and I don't know why, it's easier for me to think this way with voice acting rather than acting, but I really do believe that every person's voice is so different, so specific. I just think there's nothing I can It's either my voice or it's not, but I don't have everything to do with it. It's like, I don't believe in competition. I don't believe that some of my girlfriends are getting the work that I'm not, or, it's, so you just gotta let it go. It's like, all you can do is do what you do. You can say these lines the way you wanna say them, and you will have the voice that you have on that day, at that moment, and then you just have to trust that if that's what they're looking for, then they'll call you back.
Merci.
Avec plaisir.
We have 5 minutes left, and that should be just enough time for these 2 questions.
All right, cool. Hi. Okay, so what's a line or set of lines that you really did not enjoy doing, or did you think it was too cheesy to do, perform well, and was it just something you'd look back on and just cringe?
I usually try to change those lines. If I have the kind of relationship I normally have with the director and the writers, then I try to suggest a change that I'm more comfortable with. And it's usually not something major. It's usually something quite simple that isn't about changing the meaning of the line. It's just about changing the flow of the line to better reflect the character. So yeah, I try to make a change if I can, and if they don't want to, then again, like Chloe said before, you just have to kind of go with it and trust that someone somewhere likes how it's written.
That's a big part of the acting part that we do. Is that we're given lines or things that I don't know that I would write that way.
Like the
But
cup
that's-
noodle side quest?
Sorry?
Like the cup noodle side quest?
Yeah, right. And you have to try to figure out a way to kind of, I guess that's the acting part, is figure out a way to make things that you don't care for work. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, I think I would say exactly the same things.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi. My question, it's not really a question, but do you have a favorite voice line, and if you could perform it? Sorry to be cliche, but I like hearing people talk.
So one of my favorite voice lines from Widowmaker, because I believe that it says so much about her and who she is, and that, as you've understood by now, that's what I'm interested in, is when she says, "Emotions make you vulnerable," which they do.
I quite like, "God damn it, Roach."
If at first you don't succeed, blow it up again!
Thank you. Sorry, I met you yesterday. I had blue hair then. I was very confused.
Sorry?
I had blue hair yesterday. I came to your Walk of Fame thing.
right.
I was very confused at the
Okay,
time.
that's okay. That's fine. You see, here it is, the awkward part. I did not recognize you. Sorry.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm very impressed that we got through the entire line. So, yay. Thank you so much for coming to the panel. Thank you to our guests for being part of the panel and for sharing their insights and thoughts with us. We appreciate it. Enjoy the con.
Enjoy, you guys. Thank you so much.